The consumer watchdog, the ACCC, has raised hopes that Australia could avoid a gas shortfall this year and that supply may now be sufficient to meet demand and stave off blackouts. Let's go live to Queensland, the Gold Coast, and bring in Shadow Climate and Energy Minister Ted O'Brien. Thanks for your time. Does this report by the ACCC vindicate the government's approach?
Hello there, Kieran, and delighted to be with you from the Gold Coast here. Look, I think we've had different reports over some period of time now since the government's come in that there are going to be reliability issues. The greatest fear for the short term has been the risk of a shortfall this winter. If that shortfall does not eventuate, then I think we all should be very happy about that. Again, some of this is dependent on the weather itself. Here's hoping we don't have an extreme winter situation. If we do, we'll probably suffer some reliability issues. But the closer we can get to a point where we have the market operator, the ACCC, not calling out reliability as a risk, as a concern, the better.
The main reason that voluntary heads of agreement that the government signed the second half of last year, led by Madeleine King, the Resources Minister, that was to get more supply in the system. Do you give her credit for that?
Look, I think when it comes to the government more generally, I don't want to get personal with any individual minister, but with the government more generally, they have had a rolling series of policies that have restricted the supply of gas. And as a result, we are seeing not just prices rise, but we are seeing statements come out from the market operator saying that we face a risk in Australia of shortfalls, a risk that could eventuate this winter. If that risk evaluation has come down over recent weeks, well, that's good. Let's hope it stays down. But they are forecasting the biggest risk moving forward, probably around 2027. Now, again, we are seeing a series of policies that restrict gas. And we've been very consistent from day one as a coalition, saying what we need is more gas, not less. But when you take gas out of the capacity mechanism, when you implement a price cap, when you say there's going to be a mandatory code, when you do deals with the Greens that basically restrict development, well, of course, that leads to companies in this sector saying, we don't want to invest. And as a result, there's going to be supply shortages, and that also leads to prices going up, Kieran.
You opposed the safeguard mechanism changes, as you alluded to in that answer. From the Aston by-election, that quite a shocking result for the Liberal Party. Do you read any message from the electorate when it comes to the issue of climate change?
Oh, look, you've got a few things in that question, including the safeguard mechanism. There's no doubt that the coalition was consistent on the safeguard mechanism, saying we don't believe it's the right pathway to decarbonise the Australian economy. And then if you look at the weekend, do we need to learn lessons from Aston? Absolutely we do. We need to be in a constant state of listening and learning. And, you know, Peter Dutton has been very clear about that. We do need to listen. We need to regroup and rebuild. That's what we'll be doing. In the portfolio area, Kieran, for which I'm responsible, climate change and energy, you know, there's not an electorate around the country where this isn't important. And that's why we're doing so much work at the moment at formulating policies that we'll take to the next election.
Sure.
And I have to say I'm pretty excited about some of the things we're looking at here.
Well, it is a big cost of living question. A bit squeezed for time today. My apologies. We'll talk to you soon.